Hi everyone, and welcome to today's episode. For today, we're going to be discussing the top 5, or my top 5, Seiko chronographs that have been made throughout the history. Now, I'm wearing a headset because I've noticed that the sound quality is a bit better on this microphone than it is on the camera's microphone, so we'll stick with this. So with that explanation out of the way, and before we jump into the 5 chronographs that I chose, I wanted to take a quick wristwatch check, and for today, I'm wearing this 1972, so it's a bit of a vintage piece, Seiko Advent with a radiation dial. We'll be sure to take a closer look at this watch in the future and really check out deeply into how awesome that dial looks, but with that out of the way, let's get right into the 5 chronographs from Seiko. So starting off at number 5, my pick was the Seiko Prospex Transocean Reference SBEC003, and just by seeing this watch, it's easy to see why something like this can be somebody's top favorite watch or even diver's watch in general. That blue dial on the timepiece is just stunning to see. If you see it in some lights, you'll see it has that very nice vivid blue color, and on the sides you can be able to see how it kind of reflects a little more and looks more black than it does blue. So this particular watch is actually running off of the 8R49 movement, which is both an automatic and a manual wind timepiece, so that's pretty nice. This is a bit of a larger watch, coming in about 46 millimeters by 16 millimeters, so it isn't a small timepiece by any means, but it does have a water resistance rating of 200 meters, so you can definitely take this watch swimming and use it as a pretty good versatile sports timepiece. But the watch came out in about 2016, so this isn't very new. This isn't a brand new model, nor is it a vintage watch either, but it is a beautifully stunning piece nonetheless. Moving on to the next watch would be the Reference, or be the Seiko Reference 6139, lovingly referred to as the Blue Pouge. So this watch is one that I chose instead of the Seiko Pouge, which has the yellow sunburst dial, because I personally enjoyed the blue dial with the red and blue bezel better than with the yellow and blue and red. I know that's a little bit something that most people would go for the yellow dial instead, but I think it looks beautiful with that blue dial. This is actually being ran off the 6139B movement, so it is an automatic caliber, and it came out in 1971. So this is a vintage watch, and this isn't one that should be banged around too much, but it does come in a pretty nice size at about 41 millimeters. So even if you were to pick one up today and wear it, it would not look out of place, nor would it be considered dainty on people's wrists because of that 41 millimeter size for the watch. Moving on to number 3, I chose the Seiko X Giugiaro design Spirit Smart Reference SCED035. I know it's a very long name, but it's more lovingly referred to as the Seiko Ripley, and this one is a reissue of the original from 1983, so it is a very nice watch. It does come in a few different variants, so if you want to get something other than the gray design, they do have a couple other options which are available for considerably cheaper prices. These have gone up in price since they were released in 2016, but this is a quartz caliber running off the 7T12 movement, and it is about 40 millimeters thick by about 40 millimeters by 11 millimeters thick. So it does wear pretty nice, even though it does have that large, I guess essentially a rectangle off to the side of the case where the chronograph pushers are. So it does wear nicely, even though that large protrusion is off to the side and it doesn't really hinder the way the watch wears. But there are some really cool pieces that Seiko has done in collaboration with Giugiaro. So if you aren't aware of these watches nor of the collaborations that have been done in the past, I would recommend checking it out because there is some pretty cool history from these two individuals collaborating with one another and coming out with different timepieces. Coming up with number 2, the watch that I wanted to talk about was the Seiko Presage Reference SRQ021, and this is known as the watch with the Urushi dial, or the Urushi lacquer dial. And this came out in 2016 in order to celebrate the anniversary that Seiko had in 1956 with their first automatic manual caliber. So this is a really nice watch. It came out with a white dialed enamel variant, so if the dark dial doesn't do it for you, there is a white dial as well that can be able to be chosen from. But this runs off the 8R48 caliber. It's not too large. It's about 42 millimeters, but it is pretty thick at about 15 millimeters. So this is a pretty nice dress watch if you want to use it as that. But because of that deep color of the dial, you'll be wanting to wear it more often than just on special occasions. And if you aren't aware of the Urushi dial, I would recommend kind of checking out to see, doing some research on it, because it's a really fantastic way that these dials are made, and the craftsmanship that goes behind it is extremely interesting. So I do recommend kind of checking it out a little bit further. Moving on to number 1, and this is actually one of my personal favorite Seiko watches that has ever been designed, and this is the Seiko Izul Reference SDAA001. And just by looking at it, it is very different than what Seiko has come out with previously, and a pretty cool looking watch all around. You'll be able to kind of notice that it does have that bullhead configuration, so it does have the chronograph pushers on the top and the stem for using the watch in the middle. But this is a really cool watch because it came out in 2007 and it's running off of a caliber 5R85, which is actually a spring drive movement. So this is one of the very early spring drive calibers to be put into a Seiko timepiece. Though the size of this watch is pretty large at about 51 millimeters and about 14 millimeters thick, but instead of it being a absolute behemoth on your wrist, it'll be safe to know that this watch actually is not in stainless steel, but instead in titanium, so you'll be able to kind of wear it a little bit more comfortably and kind of get away with wearing it all the time. But one aspect of this watch that I absolutely love is the fact that the case rotates. So if you don't like the configuration of the watch looking like it is in the photo, then you could always change it to something like this, or maybe even something like this. So it's such a cool feature to see Seiko watch have that rotating case design to it, and I think it looks absolutely beautiful. And it is a pretty rare watch to come around, but if you ever see it, or if you ever have the chance to see it, I recommend just kind of toying it and just looking at it and just seeing how the watch is all around, because it is a spectacular looking timepiece, especially in photos. In real life it probably looks a lot better. So that's my top 5. If you want to kind of get any more information about the references or exactly what I said, I'll be sure to put it down in the description below, so kind of check it out if you want to do a little bit of research on some of the watches specifically. But I do thank you very much for checking out the video. If you liked what you saw in here, you can be able to kind of add a comment. Let me know if you guys want to see something else. It was a little hard for me to narrow it all down to just 5 watches from Seiko. They have pretty extensive history, and they have plenty of chronographs to choose from, but I kind of wanted to keep time in a okay manner with 5. So thank you once again, and I'll see you guys in the next video.